Good morning. This is Barry Bryson, thanking you for joining me once again for another 5 good minutes in the Word. Today, we're going to start 3 sessions in which we're going to be talking about the book of Revelation. I think probably the book of Hebrews or the book of Romans or any of the Gospels deserved more attention than the attention that we're going to be paying to this book, although it is a very important book. But there's so much misunderstanding and so many falsehoods attached to this book that I think we need to take a little time to talk about it. The most important thing we need to remember when studying the book of Revelation is communicated in the very first verse. The revelation, or literally in the original, the apocalypse of Jesus Christ, which God gave him to show to his bondservants the things which must shortly take place. And he communicated it by his angel to his bond servant John. Everything is right there that we need to know. This is an apocalyptic, and we're going to spend our time today talking about apocalyptic literature as a genre of literature. God gave it to Jesus. Why would God have to give it to Jesus? Because as Jesus said about the end of time in Matthew chapter 24, verse 36, of that day and hour no one knows, not the angels in heaven, not even the Son, but the Father alone. And he's writing about things that are going to take place shortly. So in other words, he's not giving us an unfolding of history from his day until the end of time, but he's going to talk to them about what's about to take place in the lifetime, in their lifetime, the lifetime of their children and of their grandchildren. He's not writing about things that are going to be happening in 500 or 1,000 or 2,000 years. He's writing about things that are going to be shortly taking place. Okay, we need today to talk about apocalyptic as a genre of literature, which it is. The way Western literature, sci-fi or rom-com or detective fiction is a genre of literature. And every genre has its conventions. In detective novels, there's the puzzle to be solved. In rom-com, there's love's true kiss at the end. And in westerns, there will be horses. And in apocalyptic literature, which was the most popular genre of literature in the first century, especially among Jews, we have more than 100 extant extra biblical apocalyptics written in the first century. This genre of literature deals with the end of an era, not necessarily the end of time, but the passing of one era into the next, and it describes it in cataclysmic terms. So, in an apocalyptic, the moon is going to turn to blood, the stars are going to fall from the sky, and the mountains are going to fall into the ocean. Whether the writer is talking about the Babylonian captivity, or the fall of Jerusalem, or the fall of Rome, or the second coming of Jesus Christ. That's what apocalyptic does. It describes the end of an era in cataclysmic detail. And there's apocalyptic throughout the Bible, Old and New Testament. The prophets are filled with apocalyptic. In fact, as you're studying the book of Revelation, look at the side column references or the center column references and see all the times that Ezekiel and Daniel, especially Daniel, Jeremiah, Zechariah, and Isaiah are referred to, and the other prophets, because it is such a major genre of Old Testament literature among the prophets. Jesus uses apocalyptic. Paul uses apocalyptic. Peter uses apocalyptic. And John in the Revelation is giving us, for the entire book, an apocalypse. That's the genre of it. So we should not be surprised when we see the moon turn to blood or the stars fall from the sky. That's the kind of literature we're in. Okay? So we need to remember that. And we also need to remember that apocalyptic doesn't always describe the end of time. In Matthew chapters 24 and 25, the long apocalyptic portion of Jesus' teaching, Jesus uses apocalyptic to describe two different events because he's asked about two different events. He talks about the fall of Jerusalem and the second coming. And he made clear to us that in that day, the coming of the second coming of Jesus, no one knows, only the Father alone. Well, this book is going to be a tale of two other cities. It's going to be about the end of the Roman Empire and the coming of the new Jerusalem. Okay, that's what we wanted to talk about today as we introduce apocalyptic as a genre of literature. Tomorrow, I want to give you a bit of the history, the events that the Book of Revelation will be talking about. And then on our third day studying this book, we'll look at the book itself. Thank you for joining me for 5 Good Minutes.